For more on dollar weakness, let's bring in Kathy Lien, head of FX strategy at BK Asset Management. Kathy, great to have you with us. What do you think is the number one driver of the dollar's move lower, Kathy? And what do you make of the seeming sort of discrepancy between the extreme dollar weakness that we've seen recently and the relative stability in the Treasury market?
So the question really should be, what's the driver of the near-term sell-off in the dollar versus the sell-off that we've seen over the past couple of months? Because I think that the longer-term trend of the dollar and the factors that have been driving it lower have been both cyclical and structural changes, all of which, Tim and Steve pointed out very, very well. Now, in terms of the very recent decline and acceleration in the weakness, that's, completely driven by the unexpected softness of the inflation data. As we saw in the Fed Fund futures, they shifted dramatically after the inflation report, as people realized that we could get a minimum, well, probably a 2 and a minimum of 2 and more aggressive easing in terms of rate cuts from the Federal Reserve next year. So I think there's a near-term force that's driving it lower, but the longer-term factors such as slowing growth, slowing inflation, the current account deficit that you just pointed out, along with reserve diversification, as small as it may be, is happening. And also, there's a lot of talk, and you just asked me, Melissa, about how, this record bond holdings. But, we are actually seeing Japanese investors sell the largest amount of foreign equities in the month of May since 2022. So, we are seeing reduction in demand across the globe, perhaps in different assets. So I think all of that is contributing to dollar weakness.
Where do you see the dollar going, Kathy?
So I think, for now, I think the dollar downtrend remains intact. The latest move has been quite significant in terms of slope. So we could see a little bit of stabilization. But don't forget, next week, we have the U.S. retail sales report. We have the Federal Reserve rate decision. Very important news events for the dollar. And we're also going to possibly get the details on the unilateral tariffs from the Trump administration. So there's a lot of factors that can cause, some sort of near-term safe haven bid in the dollar, particularly if the Fed resists rate cut calls. But I think the overall trend is still lower because it's inevitable that they're going to have to push the go button on rate cuts in Q4.
Kathy, it's Tim. Thanks for joining us. Are we paying too much attention to the yen? Of all the central banks out there, BOJ seems to be the one that's been the most unpredictable and maybe unconventional. But yen volatility is something we talk about a lot. Are we paying too much attention?
Well, it depends if you're a yen trader or not, right? I think a lot of people do trade yen, and they pay a lot of attention to it.
I play one on TV sometimes.
It's on the headlines because they had such a dramatic shift in their central bank policy this year. Part of it is because tariffs kind of forced their hand in not raising interest rates and changed that dynamic. But I think there's a lot of very interesting trades in dollar yen, and that volatility is a lot of opportunity for traders.